Hey everyone, it's Kai.
And Lafayette, and this is
The Theory of Living. Thanks for tuning in. We're able to bring you this episode thanks to our Patreon members.
Patreon is a subscription-based platform where people can provide support for content creators like us.
Thanks to our Patreon members and supporters, we're able to provide free content on the podcast and weekly episodes.
By being a Patreon member, you'll have access to our entire podcast library, full video and audio episodes, along with much more.
If you like this episode and you feel it adds value to your life,
or you hate it,
please subscribe on Patreon and or leave your review on Apple Podcast.
And don't forget to mention it to your friends over your next beer. Truly, thank you again, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Here we go. Episode number, what was this, 10?
Yes. 10th
Wow.
episode. Mm-hmm.
That's actually kind of crazy, because I feel like we just started this. We're
Yes.
like 10 episodes in. Does that mean 10 weeks?
Yes.
Wow, so 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
We're making some changes, aren't we?
Yeah, like what?
Well, we're in a car now, so...
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, this is not, a lasting situation, obviously. We've been recording in the car past few episodes because we're in different cities, and, now we're back in Arizona, but also we're having some other issues as well. So, but we're going to be back in our original studio or better place to record a podcast pretty soon.
Yeah, and we're looking at potentially doing on-set shooting.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that set being wherever we decide to hike to and then
Yeah.
unpack and
Right.
record. So, I mean, there's a few more factors that have to go into consideration there, particularly sound quality
Yeah.
for the wind. We have a third mic that you can't see. It's attached to the camera
Mm-hmm.
that has a bit of a muffler on it. So we might still be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to do some testing to see.
Yeah.
But would you, the viewer, be interested in seeing more than the car or more than our backdrop and our normal set?
Mm-hmm.
Would that bring some more value to those that watch this on YouTube? I
Right.
know a lot of people primarily listen to the podcast on Apple or Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're watching this on YouTube and you actually do enjoy watching the video, or you're a Patreon member and you watch the full version, please let us know what you would like to see in the background.
Yeah.
Maybe some dancing clowns, some squirrels running wild, hobos fighting. Maybe we can make that happen. Seems messed up, but...
Yeah, nothing's impossible. We just watched the 14 Pigs on Netflix. Since we watched it, we feel like nothing's impossible, right? So,
Yeah. And I got to say, after the little hike we did yesterday,
Mhm.
I think we're ready for Everest.
No, I think seriously, we can do it. Yeah, probably a month of training. I mean, we're not being cocky or anything, but we have a really good base fitness, and just a bit of more training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something to good add to the checklist of goals or
Yeah.
challenges, which brings us
That's possible.
to our segue.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about challenges and the
Yes.
importance they pose and why one should even look at a challenge and what to consider a challenge.
Right.
So we just finished up our 30-day climbing challenge. If you watched the vlog,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get a bit more insight into what all went into it, what we got from it. But I think we'd like to talk about that a little in more depth today.
Yeah.
So we initially set out to climb for 30 days and have all the related training to see if we could improve, because Kai's new to climbing
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm experienced, and we wanted to have a methodical approach and really put a challenge on us. Because when you put a goal to yourself and you're actually putting energy and effort to try and complete something, you typically end up with some type of result, one that might be surprising to you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you don't set challenges or goals, you're kind of at the whims of whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, one primary important factor to consider when setting a challenge is going to be the limitations of time. But in the other scenario, by setting a challenge, it forces you to make use of the time.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for the last 2 weeks, we were, in California and then Austin,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with family, friends, loss, and assisting with our best friend's death and helping
Mm-hmm.
his mom around the house, get things fixed for her,
Mm-hmm.
funeral preparations, eulogies, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Whole 9 yards. A lot of exhaustion and stress. And if we didn't have this challenge, we probably wouldn't have climbed at all,
Yeah.
let alone worked out.
Right.
So there's a power in just setting a challenge for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and a goal that kind of even gives you the time when you don't have it to go take
Mhm.
care of these things.
Right.
Because if you don't set up that challenge or goal, somehow you don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
But when you make the challenge or the goal,
Mhm.
it's almost magical in that way that you
Mhm.
do gain more time and more free time to go take care of these things.
Yes. And also, I like to say that, when we talked about goals and challenges before, we said that it is really important to ask yourself why you're doing it, right? I think that's probably the most important thing. Otherwise, it's really hard to stick to your plan, even if you have one, right? Um, and to us, I think one of the reasons that we really felt that we um, want to stick with plans is that because it was our promise, right? This is 30-day challenge. We set out the journey and we told our audience, I mean, we don't have a lot right now, but we told our audience that, okay, we're going to do 30-day challenge for 30 days, right?
Yeah.
So part of it was that it was our promise and we didn't want to break it.
Yeah. And that's an important factor is
Mhm.
when you make these challenges or these goals, they're not really for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you speak them aloud so that people are aware of what's going
Right.
on in your life. And again, we like to choose challenges that other people will find interesting.
Right.
Because we find a lot of things interesting. I mean, I think it's a real skill set to be able to make things interesting via investigating them or asking questions. You can kind of tease out a lot of interest in things that, maybe upon initial observation are pretty dull, boring, or, just don't really speak to you. But as you engage with it
Yeah.
via the type of person you are, you can actually make it interesting and fun.
Yeah.
And there's things about this climbing challenge that I didn't think were going to be super enjoyable and fun,
Mhm.
but just over time, like playing with it,
Yeah.
we're able to get a lot more out of it than
Yeah.
initially I thought.
Yeah.
So I think there's large value in even setting goals and doing those things and mentioning it to other people. Not that you have to be held accountable,
Mm-hmm.
but you put the pressure on because you're talking about those things in a different realm, more than in your head, more than just the self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you do it with people more than close friends,
Yeah.
So you guys, the audience, a lot of you that are listening are close friends, but a lot of people we haven't ever met in person. Maybe we've exchanged some DMs or some comments and things like that. But again, you guys knowing that, hey, we said we're going to do this,
Mhm.
we set out to do it,
Yeah.
also makes us want to follow through
Yeah.
even more
Mm-hmm.
because we want you guys to get enjoyment out of it and,
Mm-hmm.
raise some questions to yourself that, hey, despite all the things going on in my life, these guys still
Mhm.
make time for it.
Yeah.
Do all this. Hey, maybe I can make a little time for the things that are important to me.
Mhm.
And maybe that's climbing. Maybe it's not. Climbing just happened to be the challenge this time.
Right.
And it's something we're going to continually do in our lives, but that's never going to be the end solution. We haven't found the most enjoyable and fulfilling thing in life.
Right.
We have found something that is able to be enjoyed and is fulfilling because of the attributes it shares.
Mm-hmm.
Those same attributes could be found in climbing that could be in almost any other sport or endeavor. They could
Right.
be in the study of music,
Mm-hmm.
repetition, practicing,
Mm-hmm.
finding the rhythm, similar to climbing. Kind of like when you find the beta and the way to move your body, it's almost like dancing or playing music.
Right.
You execute flawlessly,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from that.
Yeah.
But you can only execute flawlessly
Mm-hmm.
through going many iterations of failure and poorly executing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's part of the going through the challenge, or trying to make your training plan more established, whatever. But I think doing this kind of challenge within a fixed period of time, I found it that now I for me it was like, because we started climbing together a few years ago, and then you just kept going, and I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
Not that I
Your
couldn't,
injury.
but yeah, I was injured badly, and that set me back more than a year, and I just lost the interest. And you move to another city and all that. So when we talked about even starting this challenge, I wanted to, like, this for me. I thought that this could be like a jump start for me, like this methodical approach that I can probably, within 30 days, I could probably improve as much as anyone could.
Yeah.
That was like one purpose for me. So that's why it was so appealing to me, and I was so enthusiastic about it. But also another purpose for me was that, okay, going through this, you talked about iterations of failures. Going through this sort of like challenge, methodical approach, you can probably, optimize that method for yourself, right? Which I found, which happened to us, right? Because we thought that, okay, largely all these things came from what other people had done before, because those are experts, they're pretty renowned people in climbing community. But after this 30-day challenge, we felt like this is not 100% for us, right? I mean, we can probably take this off, and we can add this, and then probably we can do this every quarter and things like that. So now we have like better approach or better training regimen for us, right?
Yeah, because we went and took the time to actually find out what works for us, right? So we engaged with that training, and then we're able to essentially put it through our experience, right? We're able to translate it, and it spits out something.
Right.
And now we have a better understanding of training in general. Like, we're no strangers to training. We have large background. I was a personal trainer. I coached gymnastics. We've done martial arts. We've been in and out athleticism our entire life. And, we enjoy reading the documentation surrounding training philosophy and the data that supports maybe some methods and methodology. But again, we're also open to the very real experiential side of things, the anecdotal experience.
Yeah.
The things that, hey, maybe we don't have enough data to say for sure this is the best way to do it.
Right.
And again, I think this really speaks to the invaluable experience of self-experience.
Yeah.
And self-discovery.
Yeah.
Because there are just things that we cannot encapsulate properly through quantitative or qualitative measures to actually get to the most effective form of training for me as a person individually. You have to go through this process of like building a sword, refining it over and over, right? And eventually you find something that works for you, and maybe it just works for a little longer. Maybe it's 6 to 12 weeks, or maybe it's something you can do for the full year, and then you go through this process for the rest of your life to continually improve. And another problem is that we often say, I have to fail so many times in order to succeed, when maybe we should separate out these failures and success, move them from binary to, oh, this is all just part of the path to accomplish a goal. Like failure and success, one is not more valuable than the other. They're both just as important to actually reach the goal. So you have to be thankful. I mean, it's easy when you get to the top of a climb, for example, to be like, yes, I've sent it. Like, I'm getting better. I am improving. And then a lot of the times when we fall off, we think, oh, I'm not improving. I suck. All this negative self-talk that actually is super important to fall, because that means you're trying hard enough to make a mistake and not succeed and fail, and that's where you can actually also grow to arrive to your goal.
Right. I mean, assuming that you're giving your best, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you fail just because you're not giving your best.
Absolutely.
So there's two. Those are two different things. But assuming that you're giving your best and you keep failing, then that's an opportunity for you to assess your training regimen, what you're not doing right,
Yeah.
and that's where you can find where things can be adjusted, and that's where your learning can come from.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is so cliche to say that failures are necessary steps for success, but they really are. I mean, if you're gifted, for example, like let's say, just make it simple that you're gifted an athlete, right? You can maybe achieve to be a certain level of athlete without maybe never failing, right? But that doesn't mean that you've learned everything that other athletes have done by failing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You have to go through it yourself.
right.
And then again, what you were talking about, pulling from the experience of what works for you, what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You can also pull things back from a large enough timeline to get a better idea. Because even 1 year of training
Yeah.
isn't necessarily going to be, the most formative data to say if something's effective. Some things that take a long time to increase your skill at, especially climbing, and when you're at the higher level of the sport, it takes years.
Mm-hmm.
You need to look at years of data to actually say,
Right.
is this effective? Is this working? Yes, you should look at the micro as well, right? So, the smaller stuff from how do I feel week to week, even session to session, or even move to move.
Mm-hmm.
But also don't forget to take a look at the macro, the large scale. It's like,
Yeah.
well, where does this look like 3 weeks, the 3 months I've been doing this? How does this look seasonally? Oh, how does this look yearly? Okay,
Mhm.
how about, decade? What's the last decade look like?
Mm-hmm.
Granted, a lot of people just never reach a decade because they've never spent 10 years
Mhm.
trying anything consistently.
Right.
Most people can't even say they've tried one thing for 1 year consistently in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean consistently in a way where you can look back on something, you've written it down, you have data to support it. More than feelings, because our feelings will betray us a lot of the time as time passes. Our emotional states change and they blur what has occurred in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important to keep somewhat of a training diary to know what worked, what didn't work. And then
Yeah.
you can actually make real improvement and real changes. And you can kind of see the data work in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's super important to not only pursue something continually, but also write this stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
These challenges you take on. And again, this doesn't even need to be working out. Maybe it's
Yeah.
the challenge of self-love. Okay, how did I love myself today? How did I love myself this week, this month, again, seasonally? And you can look at that, and over an amount of time, you'll see oh yeah,
Yeah.
I did that, or I didn't do that. Let's try that.
Right.
And then you have a better understanding of whatever that thing it is that you're trying to grow or the goal you're to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Very valuable.
Yeah, for sure. We've been talking about largely in the context of fitness, but also another popular area we can apply. We can talk about challenges is that probably diet, right? So to your point, if you have a certain goal in diet, like try to lose some weight or try to eat healthy, all these could be almost meaningless after a certain period of time if you don't have any data, right? If you don't have any written log, because over time your body changes too, not only in terms of weight, but also maybe some elements of your health can change.
Yeah.
And then your body can just start to react in a different way than before, and now you don't understand, right? So things like that can happen. So that's why it is important to write things down as you progress. But I mean, in terms of diet, particularly, there are so many apps these days that you can use.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
so-
I'm sure.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, honestly, but because after establishing your diet system and practicing it for a few years, like you know what you're doing. Like you don't really need to, log in all the things that you eat and things like that. But if you're just starting it and if you're not really experienced, then you're probably using those apps and technology,
Yeah.
could be helpful.
And there's also a psychological effect of, again, having this data tracked. Because when you're hard on yourself and you say, oh, fuck, man, maybe I haven't been giving as much as I could, or have I really tried hard? You can literally just go back and look
Yeah.
to your notes, or however you categorize all of it, and you say, oh yeah, wait, yeah, no, I wrote that down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody who's serious writes this stuff down. Like, you can take a look at your friends that say they're serious about the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Probably don't write it down. You can look at other people, and you can easily look at what you've done and say, no, I should be proud. Like, I am trying. I am giving effort.
Yeah.
And that'll have a huge boost to your self-esteem
Yeah. For
and
sure.
your self-confidence, and just feeling more capable as an
Mhm.
individual. And a lot of people don't have that. And I think
Mhm.
one good segue is maybe we should talk about, okay, say I set a goal or a challenge for myself, and I know there's going to be criticism.
Yeah.
I know people potentially are going to mock my goal, laugh at me, or think it's unrealistic or
Mhm.
crazy. How would you handle that? What do you think's I don't know, maybe a good way to deflect these feelings? Or is it wrong to feel negative if people have criticisms of your stuff?
I mean, assuming that your challenge is worthy, for you, then the only reason I'm saying this is that sometimes it could be ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could be
Right.
sending out
But
a podcast and a
That's
blog.
probably really rare. Most people have, I think, legit a challenge. So if anybody tries to, degrade or what you're doing and your values, then, I mean, you should ignore it. That's the answer, right? Because people cannot see why you're doing what you're doing. They don't have full picture of it. They just project it to their reality, and maybe they may look stupid too, in their reality.
Yeah, through their value system and their ethics.
Exactly. So as long as you have a strong reason why you're doing it, I mean, that shouldn't really bother,
Yeah, and again, maybe there's a reason you feel the pressure from criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Is that maybe you don't have strong
True.
values behind why you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you haven't really thought about it. Maybe you want to climb that certain grade, because it sounds good to other people,
Mm-hmm.
rather than you actually want to climb it,
Yeah.
or whatever it is you want to accomplish. So
Mm-hmm.
again, if people want to be critical of your goals, you don't need to immediately be dismissive. You should take it with a grain of salt, though.
Yeah.
Maybe they're critical because I don't carry myself in a way that seems to align with this goal. Okay, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the type of person that says I'm going to go do all these lofty, grand things, and I can't even show up to the gym twice a week for my sessions.
Right.
Maybe that's why there's some criticism. It's worth investigating.
For sure. Yeah.
I think there's a great quote by Theodore Roosevelt I'm going to read. It's
Mhm.
about criticism. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who are the best in the who the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. I fucking love that quote.
Yeah. Great quote.
Just to say that,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, even if you succeed or fail, at least you went after it and you did it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now we're in a challenging situation because we're in
Mm-hmm.
a car.
Right.
But what he was saying essentially is that
Yeah.
it's better to be one of those people that can at least say they've tried
Mm-hmm.
rather than somebody who just looks at it from the outside
Mm-hmm.
and has an opinion about it.
Right.
Because again, any criticism at the end of the day is merely an opinion. And some opinions are more valuable than others.
Yeah.
An opinion coming from somebody who has tried and has gone through a similar and same experience
Yeah.
actually has credible criticism.
Yeah.
And again, somebody might be able to guess some things and be right in their criticism
Yeah.
without the experience, but it still feels like it doesn't weigh as much because maybe if they'd gone through the experience, they would have said things in a more convincing or
Productive way.
productive way.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
valuable.
like, to me, even if that person has experienced what you're doing, I think that makes his opinion and criticism a little more valuable than others. But still, your experience is completely different from that person.
Yeah.
So you can take it, productive way, the criticism, and maybe try to assess your experience and your challenge in a positive way, but don't take it too seriously. That's my opinion about it, because our experiences are all unique. Therefore, even if that person has that experience of what you're doing, it's still very different.
Yeah.
Maybe your situation is a little harder or easier. I don't know. You could be, you could have more disturbances in your experiences. So just don't take it too seriously. Just focus on what you're doing, because your experience is the most important thing. Because again, without the experience, without the experience, knowing it is really a completely different thing, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna arrive after experience. After that experience, you're gonna arrive at certain conclusion, certain truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
very personal
mhm.
to you.
Yeah,
Personal
exactly.
truth. For that word means to a lot of people.
Mhm.
Again, a lot of varying meaning there. But let's talk about some of the challenges that
Mhm.
we've experienced
Yeah.
with just the recent 30-day climbing challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I found the 4x4 to be the really hard, difficult section.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do that in the middle of the week, Wednesday. For people that don't know climbing or haven't watched any of the vlogs,
Right.
a 4x4 is essentially you climb something 4 times in a row without stopping, up and down. And then once you've completed it, you rest for 4 minutes and you repeat that 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's power endurance. It's similar to sprinting and stopping. That's probably the closest thing. It's like high intensity interval training, or HIIT.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks. It's hard. You're climbing way below your grade.
Mm-hmm.
So you already feel like, oh, this should be easy, but it's hard. And you're just out of breath.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult. So I was feeling a lot of the times when we were doing that, man, this sucks. I'm not improving. This is not getting any easier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is worth doing. Maybe this is a waste of time. But at the end of the 30 days, we went and retested ourselves
Yeah.
on something that I didn't think it would have much of an impact on. And it pretty much doubled my score on that one specific thing, which was hanging from a bar for time.
Yeah.
It was way easier. And even when we did it and let go, I didn't let go because I was like going to give up. I just didn't think I could make it another 30 more seconds for the next point.
Yeah.
But my arms weren't sore. I didn't feel out of breath.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the first time 30 days
Yeah.
prior,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is awful. I remember thinking the night before, just stressed out, like, oh, I don't want to have to go through this pain, this suffering
Yeah.
of hanging on the bar. And this time it was so easy. There was like no pain at all almost.
Yeah, I was very surprised too. So before all this training, I failed at about 1 minute and 27 seconds, and after 4 weeks of this training, I finished at 2 minutes and 5 seconds, something like that. It's a massive, massive improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who has done this before, just hanging on a bar, as long as you can, you understand after like the last 20 second or even 5 second how long it is. Like it's just crazy.
It's pretty painful.
So so improving that last portion of 30 seconds, like that's massive, like a crazy amount of improvement.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this can actually happen. And I mean, obviously not just that, but also climbing itself. I was able to do all the grades that I wasn't able to do before training. So that was, I mean, nothing but pleasure through this challenge, because, one thing that I like to do, and another thing is that I could actually experience that improvements through my body. So that was really great.
Yeah, and you also surprise yourself, the ability to rise to an occasion. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't set a bar because we're afraid we can't reach that bar. But a lot of times, actually, the bar was set too low, and that's why you completed it.
Yeah.
And again, other people have the opposite problem where we set a bar way too high. That's too far away. And I think we do that in order to not hold ourselves accountable. Because if the goal is lofty and far away, well, I mean, who could ever really achieve that? That was a crazy goal.
Right.
So it's definitely a balancing act of sometimes setting the bar too low, sometimes setting it too high. And every now and again you set it just right. And when you do, and you go through it, it's a wonderful experience. You gain competency in life that applies to more than just whatever challenges. And another challenge that we've ran into recently was, right now we should be in Thailand. We should be on a beach in Thailand.
Let's talk about that, because that's a big part right now in our life.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So we were going to fly out last week, Thursday. So we had to do the test 72 hours in advance, and it was this specialized test, RT-PCT, right? Or PCRT?
PCR.
Yeah, PCR. So only a few places will do it to get it in time for the 72 hours. So it was like a $300 test that we both had to do. And I woke up that morning, the night before, I didn't feel too great. Woke up, I was sick, feverish. I'm like, I think I have COVID, man. So we went and got the test, and again, finding the testing center, what a pain in the butt. They're not answering the phone, they don't respond to emails, huge pain in the butt. So we go get the test, I end up being positive for COVID. So this ruins the end of our climbing challenge, and then it ruins the ability to go to Thailand. We were going to Thailand on the Test and Go, which is something they've canceled after December 22nd, because we put all our data in to the Thai government beforehand. I emailed them weeks and weeks to get it approved for both of us. Finally get approved. Everything's working out. It's looking good. And then that happens. So now we're in the process of rescheduling everything. Money was lost on hotel rooms, travel insurance. Just a battle. I'm telling you, a real challenge to get everything done. But now we know how to navigate the system a little better. We've set up better precautions, not going out before we're going to go get the test. We'll do at home test first. And we'll do all these things in order to be successful this time. And that's going to apply to not only traveling this one time, but for the rest of our lives. How we navigate it, how we go about it. And again, a lot of people could just be like, well, it's just not meant to be. Like, give up. Traveling is not an option right now with COVID. What are you thinking? But we just understand a more effective way to travel now.
Yeah, that also, that thought process is possible because you've gone through it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just talked about it. Getting that approval from Thai government was pain in the ass. I mean, it was weeks of process. But we know it is possible. It can be done. and the travel insurance and all that. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's possible, right? I mean, it's easy to give up because that's the easiest thing to do. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just make a call. I'm not doing it. But making things happen that are hard, once you do that, like, you learn a lot, right?
Yeah.
So you can go through that again. I mean, it's still pain in the ass, but you can do it.
Yeah, the learning
Yeah.
part at least is not as difficult. I know what to go click, which website.
Mm-hmm.
I know who to email,
Yeah.
which emails to hit up for the Thai government.
Right.
So all that a little more effective. Like,
Yeah.
I understand the training routine a little bit better now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. And again, I mean, we really want to do this not only for ourselves
Mhm.
because we want to go travel, but we want to be able to produce content that's not only applicable to this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but also to our life. So I guess what I'm saying is that the podcast and everything we talk about on here,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be one thing to just talk about it, but we're strong believers that you should be living what you're talking about.
Yes.
And so everything we talk about
Mhm.
philosophically, everything we discuss here in the podcast, we want to go apply in real life. And we hope that maybe you're somebody that's only listening to the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe you can go look at the vlog and see, oh shoot, these guys are putting it into application. This
Yeah.
is more than just a thought process for them.
Mhm.
This is more than just these guys getting together and discussing things. They actually
Yeah.
try to apply it and live it.
Yeah. I think that's what our content will, I don't know what I was going to say. But anyway, I mean, that's, what we believe. Knowing it is, again, is really different from actually experiencing it. I mean, there are two different truths,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I used to not believe in that, but I do now. Because
Yeah.
after I experiencing, after the alignment in the mountain.
Yeah.
But anyway, we love to experience those ideas that we explore on the podcast, and through books and things like that. So Thailand happens to be a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we can go right now, but we're gonna make it happen. We just need to adjust our course a little bit, but I think we can probably go within 3 weeks, 2 or
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Yeah. So early February and January.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as the watcher, follower, our friends, whoever you are to us, you can see that just because you have a challenge doesn't mean it's going to be a very easy course.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, I'm really sorry. My brain is not working right now properly because I'm still recovering from all this sickness. By the way, the COVID, I don't know if it is still COVID. I have no idea because I tested negative, right? But the test could be false. I mean, I saw that accuracy could be anywhere. I mean, the inaccuracy of the test could be anywhere between 20 up to 60%.
Oh man, here we go. We're going to talk about COVID test accuracy. We're getting controversial. It ain't real. Birds ain't real.
No, I'm not
Government
saying it's
operates.
not. I'm just saying that from the data we have, the test could be false.
Don't listen to his science words. Data. What
But
does
anyway,
that mean?
officially I tested negative, but I was sick for more than 6 days. Okay, and I hadn't been sick like that in, I don't know.
Childhood?
Yes, crazy.
That
This
is
is crazy. Yes, to me it was crazy, but
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, maybe we're fortunate. All these years, well, all these years. I guess for 2 years we've avoided COVID. That you can say all these years. That's multiple years. 2 years we avoided COVID
Yeah.
with our rough and loose
this
lifestyles.
is how far we've come with the COVID.
Yeah. And the second we have to do something that is necessary we don't get COVID, we freaking
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, both of us have really had, have not had any luck in our lives. I mean, I'm not kidding. It always seems like, something happens at a crucial moment.
Critical time. Critical moment. Something goes wrong, awry.
And when we got that approved, actually, by from Thai government, we're so stoked because, I mean, with our luck, usual luck, I mean, this shouldn't be happening right now.
Yeah.
But and then also that was after Omicron, right? So we're so worried that not even worried. I mean, we're expecting that this wouldn't be approved, but they did. So we're so like, oh my God, this is something. I mean, finally we're getting some luck in our lives.
Yeah.
But then here we go, COVID that we didn't catch for 2 years. Suddenly.
Tricked you. Thought you had a good thing going for you.
Not yet, buddy.
Yeah. Which, again, though, it's kind of weird because you could apply this is maybe a negative thought process, but I see it as a positive. Is like,
right.
Okay, despite that, you know what, man? There's just more ammunition. Like, nope, this is the right path because it's difficult. It gives me like some indicators that, okay, yeah, maybe this is the right thing. Because even though we've had all these, like we said, we've got bad luck in a lot of ways. Yeah. We still get these small glimpses of hope that show us or seem to reveal that, oh yeah, this is the right direction.
Right.
All the experiences we've had that just kind of point to, yeah, you know what, you guys are on the right trail or the right path and you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, to me though, like all those bad lucks, I mean, I talked about it that way, jokingly, okay? But philosophically speaking, it means nothing. It really means nothing. It's just random events. I don't really care about it. And as an engineer, I've always had that attitude about problems that, okay, stop whining about problems, find a solution. That has been always my attitude. So it's disappointing for sure, but my immediate reaction is to, find a solution to it.
Yeah, well, what can you do to solve the problem?
Yeah. So whining, I mean, you should have that whining phase, but not too much, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just not productive. Not productive forever. At all. Yeah.
Wallow enough to get to the point where, like, okay, we got to do something about this now.
Yeah.
And speaking of, again, other people's challenges, some of our favorite philosophers experience great challenges in their lives. We go back to Socrates, famously put to death. Granted, he probably could have gotten out of it from everything that's been written about him, but he chose to drink, I believe it was hemlock, so poison.
Yeah, it was.
What a challenge. Again, to be challenged even in society, because he was somebody who raised questions and taught, he was famously charged with corrupting the youth because he said, there's no gods. Basically, I'm consolidating a lot of this. There's no gods, and he taught thinking for yourself and famously pissing people off by asking why. Well, why? Like a child, never satisfied with the answers. So his life was full of challenges. But if he would have just turned around because he met some friction and people were against his way of thinking and looking at the world, our world would be entirely different. A very different world. Socrates, right, famously went through all these trials and tribulations. Just going to summarize what I just said. It seemed like there might have been an issue with the mic and the sound quality. But he constantly asked why, and he was famously charged with corrupting the youth, and along with that, questioning the authenticity of gods. And that's condensing it lightly. But he was famously put to death via suicide. He had to drink hemlock. Even though his friends could have gotten him out of that situation, he was, famously attributed it with saying, "Why should I fear death? For all I know, this could be the best thing to ever happen to me. We have no experience of death, just our ideas surrounding it." And so he drank the hemlock and died. Miserable way to go, by the way. And then Nietzsche had an illness his entire life. I forget, some type of stomach issue, I believe.
It's not.
Was it not stomach issue?
I forgot the exact name of it, but it was some sort of like brain.
Well, I know he had mental illness and all that stuff later.
No, I mean the sickness. It has to do with his hat. I don't know exactly what it was.
Okay, so you don't have the answer.
I don't have the answer.
Son of a gun. So famously suffered all his life, was rejected by his lovers. He proposed to 2 different women, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and famously let down another person who suffered, but changed the very course of history, philosophically speaking, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, our lives and everyday, probably, and the things that we interface with.
Yeah.
But all these people that had changes or real impact on the world
Mm-hmm.
went through challenges.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that has had any real meaningful impact that
Mm-hmm.
didn't suffer a bit or have to suffer through difficulty. So
Yeah.
you should see challenges as a good thing, as maybe this challenge is the necessary ingredient to actually make real change and real impact,
Mm-hmm.
and not only my life, but other people's lives and potentially the world.
Yeah.
They should be seen as good things.
Right. I think one thing that that we talk a lot about going through discomfort and challenges is that it makes you grow, right? That we talk about a lot. I think another thing that we don't really often talk about is that I forgot I was thinking about it.
I was so ready. I was like, here it is. Here's the nugget of wisdom I'm getting today. And he fucking forgot. Can you believe this? Listeners out there, comment and let us know this is unacceptable.
Oh man.
We
You
need-
should take it because I totally forgot. Yeah, my brain is just not working right now, but
Fine, I guess I'll talk about other people's challenges. His
Okay.
challenges, being mentally not together.
mm-hmm.
I might have used another term
Yeah.
10 years ago, but you know, I'm just going to say it. Patreon members, you're being retarded. Canceled. Episode 10, last one. But Epictetus, for example, is another guy that comes to mind who was famously a slave and one of the huge proponents and the founding fathers of Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
Says, you know, you can change all these physical attributes in my life. You know, you can beat me, you can starve me, you can do all these things, but you can't change the way I think about these circumstances
Mhm.
and these events.
Yeah.
And that the guy is one of the forefounders of Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. The power of the mind. The power of
Yeah.
saying, hey, you know what? Fuck all these challenges, all these difficulties. It's not stopping me.
Yeah.
I'm not letting it stop me from giving up on my dream. Just like the one guy in the 14 Peaks.
Yeah.
Here he is. So many people would have said, this is impossible. It's a suicide mission. You're going to get yourself killed. And he very well could have.
Yeah.
But he knew that was his dream.
Yeah.
He was after it. He was going to die doing that dream.
Yeah.
Failure or success, I don't think was necessarily the point. I think it was just about climbing that dream.
Yeah.
Staying on that path at
Yeah.
any cost. And again, when you really do value something and you really have a goal and a dream that's at that highest level, you will sacrifice everything to achieve it.
Right. I was really impressed by that guy because I don't know anything about mountaineering, that world at all. But in the beginning of the documentary, all those famous people, Jimmy Chin, and those people are talking about like how little they knew or none at all about this guy who just claims that I'm gonna complete this 14 picks, 8,000 plus meters in 7 months. And who is this guy? I've never heard of this guy. I mean, nobody knows who this guy is. And I was thinking that, of course, he had a strong belief in himself, but also he had this idea. He just created this idea, a new challenge, right? That's great. But if he really didn't start actually doing the challenge, probably none of us would still, know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Right?
Still be a no name.
Right. So I thought that I was thinking about like how important it is to actually take the action, not just forming the idea. Forming the idea is noble too, but like actually taking the action is just another thing, right?
Yeah, a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
But again,
Mm-hmm.
just even being able to dream up such a wild challenge
Yeah.
kind of gives it, you kind of create the possibility for it.
Yeah.
Because you
For
can
sure.
just dream it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it sounds corny and cheesy to say, but if you dream it,
Mm-hmm.
then you can achieve it.
Yeah.
To some degree, I think there's truth there. I think there's a little bit of truth in that statement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you can dream it up in the real sense of a dream that's actually plausible and true to you, I very well think you could go out there and make it happen. It might take years. It might take your entire life. You might die trying, but at least you died living, truly living.
Yeah.
So go set some challenges so you can die alive.
Yeah. We're wrapping it up.
Is he even here today? I think we have to end this for the sake of everybody watching. Okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed the 10th episode. The most well-prepared one.
The most poorly executed one, though.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.
That's this week's episode of the Theory of Living podcast. Thanks for listening with us. We are Lafayette and Kai. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
And if you'd like to help support us, we have a Patreon page where you can subscribe for exclusive content.
Also, please share it with others who you think may find value in our discussion.
Leave a rating, a review, and please subscribe to the podcast.
Thank you again.
See you next time.